Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. My name's Don Arlitz, and you're watching World News. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski is meeting with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi to discuss trade issues, including Polish food exports to China and the closure of border crossings with Belarus. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is expected to also dominate the talks.
As we speak, the Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski is hosting bilateral talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in a castle just outside of Poland's capital city of Warsaw. The talks are set to strengthen strategic bilateral cooperation between the two countries. And this is the first such visit in over 6 years, though the two nations have maintained diplomatic ties. The Chinese officials' visit comes at a time where Belarusian and Polish borders have been closed, severely impacting Chinese freight train trade into Europe, which amounts to over 90% of total volumes as it passes through the Polish-Belarusian border. Additionally, it comes at a time when Russia continues its war of aggression against Ukraine. Though China maintains neutrality, calling the war a crisis, it has strengthened military cooperation with Moscow since the full-scale Russian invasion on Ukraine. Additionally, it comes as Russia has incurred into the Polish airspace earlier this week, or rather last week on Wednesday, as 19 Russian drones entered into the Polish airspace. All of these subjects are expected to be on top of the agenda of the meeting today. Additionally, the meeting is taking place in a high security environment. Though statements for the press were previously expected, these have now been cancelled. For TVP World, Zuzanna Jurek.
Residents in cities in North Rhine-Westphalia, the most populous German region, will be voting in the second round of local elections in 2 weeks. Candidates from SPD and AfD will take on each other in Gelsenkirchen and Duisburg, while in Hagen, an AfD politician will take on a CDU candidate.
Overall, CDU received 33.3% of the vote, while SPD took second place with just over 22%, and the right-wing AfD placed third with 14.5%. This marks an almost threefold increase for AfD's support in the region. The Green Party, along with the Left and FDP, trailed the three parties with 14.5%, 5.6%, and 3.7% of the vote, respectively. In Gelsenkirchen, an SPD stronghold, the first round of elections was won by SPD candidate Andrea Henze, who secured 37% of the vote, while AfD's Norbert Emmerich took second place with 29.8%. Similar results came back from polling stations in Duisburg, where Carsten Gross from AfD placed second with 19.7% of the votes. This pits him against the incumbent mayor of the city, SPD's Soren Ling, who managed to win 46% of support. In 2 weeks, Hagen will be a battleground between the CDU and the AfD.
U.S. President Donald Trump once again said he's willing to impose sanctions on Russia, but only if NATO countries stop buying Russian oil. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said, in turn, that the best sanctions on Russia are airstrikes on its oil refineries, terminals, and depots. According to Zelenskyy, so far, Ukrainian drone strikes have significantly impacted Russia's oil industry, limiting its capacity to support the Kremlin's war effort.
NATO has to get together, Europe has to get together and do it. Look, Europe they're my friends, but they're buying oil from Russia. So we can't be expected to be the only ones that are, full bore. But Europe is buying oil from Russia. I don't want them to buy oil. And the sanctions that they're putting on are not tough enough. And I'm willing to do sanctions, but they're going to have to toughen up their sanctions commensurate with what I'm doing. I thought this was going to be an easy one for me, but this has turned out to be tough. The hatred between Zelenskyy and Putin is unfathomable.
You still believe that they will talk? That they will have a...
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to do all the talking. They hate each other.
When do you think that will take place?
I don't know. Relatively soon.
Has any of the NATO...
We're going to get it worked out one way or the other, but relatively soon.
Has any of the NATO...
They hate each other so much, they can't breathe. So I'm going to have to get involved.
The most effective sanctions, the sanctions that work the fastest, are the fires at Russian oil refineries, terminals and oil depots. They have significantly restricted the Russian oil industry, and this significantly restricts the war. The Russian war is in fact a function of oil, gas, and all other Russian energy resources. I would like to thank the Special Forces of the Security Service of Ukraine, who have done a very good job in Primorsk in recent days, in Russia's largest oil terminal in the Baltic Sea. There is significant damage, everything has been verified, and this is noticeable to the enemy.
Russia wants to show that it still has capabilities to threaten the West, said Hanna Lubiakova from the Atlantic Council on our show World Talks. The investigative journalist joined TVP World to discuss Russia's efforts to show off its Zircon hypersonic missiles during the joint Zapad 2025 exercises with Belarus.
On the one hand, obviously, these drills are happening every 4 years, so these are planned drills, and they were supposed to happen. But on the other hand, we know that in 2021, of course, during these drills, after these drills in 2022, Russia attacked Ukraine. So, of course, I think we cannot just assume that this is about training. This is about Russia flexing muscles, showing that it still has capabilities to threaten the West, to potentially attack the West in the future. And of course, it shows the role of Belarus in all this geopolitical situation. Belarus is an ally of Russia. That's where also the drills are happening. And Lukashenko most recently said that since Russia is so busy in Ukraine, we have to step in, we have to help with these drills, and we have kind of to take most of the kind of power here and show that we are also helping.
Denmark, which currently holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union, says that incoming EU laws will put a financial burden of over 124 billion euros on companies and public administration. The report comes as the EU already faces significant red tape costs. The Danish presidency sees new legislation will add additional financial burdens to already existing compliance costs. They're estimated to equal 150 billion euros per year, according to European Commission forecasts. As the draft laws and policy areas are currently being negotiated, these estimates might change in the future. There is no question about the fact that we have way too many burdens on our companies, said Stephanie Loos, Denmark's economy minister, for the Financial Times. The topic will be discussed at a meeting of EU finance ministers later this week. Flight operations at Krakow's Balice Airport have resumed shortly before 1 a.m. on Monday after an Enter-Air passenger jet skidded off the runway during landing on Sunday. All passengers were safely evacuated.
Krakow Airport confirmed overnight that flights resumed 40 minutes past midnight, though delays and disruptions may still affect passengers throughout Monday. The airport urged travelers to monitor airline updates for the latest information. The suspension of operations followed an incident on Sunday afternoon when an Enter-Air aircraft arriving from Antalya, Turkey veered off the runway and came to a stop on a grassy strip. No one was injured, and all passengers were safely evacuated. Poland's State Commission for Aircraft Accident Investigation carried out an inspection at the scene.
Tens of thousands of people protested Sunday in the Turkish capital against a court case scheduled for Monday that could remove the head of the main opposition party. The case follows detentions of over 500 people, including 17 mayors in the past year, including Istanbul mayor and the Turkish president's main rival, Ekrem İmamoğlu.
Crowds gathered in Ankara chanted for President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's resignation, while waving Turkish flags and banners of opposition parties. During the rally, the Republic Party leader Özgür Özel said the government is attempting to cling to power by undermining democratic norms and cracking down on dissent. Özel also called for snap general elections, saying the case against his party is purely political and the proceedings are a coup against the future president.
This year's Vuelta a España ended unusually, with the final race unable to be completed and no closing ceremony. Anti-Israeli protesters blocked the streets of Madrid, disrupting the final day of the 3-week cycling competition.
A few days before the end of the race, Spanish authorities announced that over 1,000 police officers and 400 military police officers will be responsible for the safety of Vuelta a España final. However, it proved insufficient. Thousands of protesters blocked the route at various points at the center of the Spanish capital before the cyclists got there, effectively paralyzing the race. On Gran Via, protesters knocked down barriers and marched into the road, with some chanting for a boycott of Israel while holding Palestinian flags. Competing cyclists came to a screeching halt some 56 kilometers from the finish line before the race was abandoned. Despite the sad ending, this year's Vuelta can be a happy memory for the two-time Tour de France winner Jonas Vingegaard, who emerged victorious after 3 weeks of traversing Spain.
An African wildcat is on the loose in Poland after escaping from a breeding farm, triggering warnings by local authorities to remain vigilant. A video published on social media shows an African several wandering near wooded areas outside of the city of Głogów in western Poland. According to the Głogów Forest Service, the animal appears healthy and not aggressive. The authorities have appealed to local residents to stay cautious and report sightings, but not approach the animal. The African serval is a medium-sized wildcat native to Africa, but a number are kept in Poland, both by private owners and through captive breeding facilities. And that concludes this edition of World News. Thank you for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.